Laetitia. I am a journalist. I live and work in San Francisco. I've been there since I first started reporting on the frenzy of the internet bubble back in the late 90s. And it's my pleasure to be here today with you in conversation with Sébastien Saunier, Ivonne Jansen-Dings, and Ilhan Adiyaman. So it is no mystery to you that we're obviously living in truly fascinating times where technology is increasingly permeating our lives, everything we do, from the way we grow our food, to tracking how much we sleep, to even purging our closets. We do live in a digital world. What that means is that data is the name of the game. Data that is plentiful and easily accessible, and we'll talk about that. Power also is irresistibly transitioning towards individuals and organizations who understand and know how to manipulate data to create processes and services that were unimaginable just a short while ago. Programming means you can create a world the way you want to see it, and hopefully that means creating a better world. Programming, in fact, is becoming sexy, attracting people from all walks of life, as Sébastien will talk about. Programming is also becoming a tool for the common good that all citizens deserve to have access to, including children, and Yvonne will tell us about that. In a nutshell, this conversation today is going to be about programmers' drive and responsibility to improve people's lives. So without further ado, I will let our three panelists introduce themselves. Sébastien. Yeah.
Hey. Thank you, Laetitia. So, hi, everybody. I'm Sébastien Saunier. I'm the CTO of Wagon. So, Wagon is a coding bootcamp in Paris. So, we try to bring technical skills to creative entrepreneurs. And so, we do that in a 9-week bootcamp that I will explain in a little bit. So we launched in Paris last year, and we launched in Brussels this year, and I'm pleased to announce that we also have planned to launch Lille, Bordeaux, and Los Angeles. So we'll talk about how to help entrepreneurs learn programming.
Thank you, Sébastien.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Jansen. I'm from Waag Society. We're a knowledge institute in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and we focus on creative technology for societal benefits. And we explore emerging technologies in what we call curiosity-driven research, which means we work with coders, with designers, with concept developers to see how these different technologies that are emerging really impact our daily lives. And to give a few examples, I don't know if anybody here has a Fairphone. I know we're popular in Germany, but so Fairphone is a product that Waag Society launched and is now outside of, because we are non-for-profit, it's now outside of our own organization. It's its own business, and it creates fair use, is that how you say it? Fair use mobile smartphone, where all the components are, you can track the origins, and you can even open the technology, because one of our main philosophies really is if you cannot open it, you do not own it. Another one I quickly want to mention is our Facebook farewell party coming up in June. So we want to really help people take a critical view of technologies that are out there and how you are using them. And it's not really about leaving Fairphone. I think now it's called the Fairphone Liberation Army, which should appeal maybe here in France. But it's about giving alternatives and looking at them and what they can offer. And then maybe you and a group of people can transition to a new platform.
Okay. Thank you, Yvonne.
My name is Ilhan Adiyaman. I'm a mobile application developer in Turkey, in Istanbul. Apart from this, I'm a civic hacker. I was code fellow for City of Barcelona last year. We built an application that helps citizens to submit their public service requests with more cheap and easy. So.
Great. So thank you, Ilhan. More and more in Silicon Valley, we've been hearing this nice phrase of how programmers will inherit the earth. More and more programmers venture out of the private sector, indeed, to play a role to improve civic life. So Ilhan, I would love to start with you. You started working on a project for Istanbul public transportation while you were still a student. Please, can you tell us about that? What problem you were trying to solve and what you ended up creating?
Yes. It was like 4 years ago. I was in the university. It was my last semester. So we have to create a mobile application that use GPS location data. So we just find the flight radar data, which shows the planes data on the map. So it wasn't that. It was great, but we don't want to use that data because it has a lot of privacy policy. So you cannot use that data on your applications. So after a lot of searching, we discovered that there were data about Istanbul transportation on the city webpage. It shows the bus lines and bus stops, also real-time bus locations.
Right.
So we just want to try it. I mean, we just want to give a shot to create to solve a problem that we already have. I mean, there are lots of people in Istanbul. There are lots of public bus lines. There are lots of public bus stops. More than 600 bus lines we are talking about it, and more than 6,000 bus stops we have to manage. So at first we create a mobile application, an Android application that shows the bus lines and bus stops, and also real-time bus locations. But it was really hard to fetch the data from the web page because it's not well structured. I mean, it's just XML data on the real-time data, but we don't have timetables, we don't have schedules, we don't have bus lines list. I mean, we don't have the well-structured data, so we have to parse it. We did that. I mean, we parsed the data, and we released our first application at 2012. And then we didn't expect that potential. I mean, it reached more than 500,000 people right now. So it was a great success for us. We are still maintaining it, but you know, it is really hard to get the data updated. So the data is not structured. You have to fetch always the new data from the web page. At that time, we didn't know about the open data. I mean, there were not so much people like us to make civic hacking. But one of my friends sent an email about the challenge in Turkey. It's about the public transportation data hackathon, which is organized by public local government and the city SDK. So Waag society was there. They created an city SDK API set, which provide the location data of the Istanbul. It's real data. It's well structured, so you can make a lot of things on that. At first, we just go there and investigate the data. So we found that it's what we need. We don't want to create same application as we did. So we want to add more functionalities. So we add route planning. We don't have that feature on our released application. So we create an application that also have route planning. So you can just select one bus stop and one other location, and we create the best route for the transportation by using public bus. So it was really great to get that data on well-structured site.
And I believe you won an award for that one, right?
Yeah, we won. We ranked first, and it was really great to get that honor. I mean.
That's great, and we'll talk more about open data
Okay.
later in this conversation. So now another aspect is that more and more people who are not trained programmers understand that coding is a necessary tool that one needs to be familiar with, at the very least, in order to build successful projects. Maybe they are lawyers, architects, or artists. Sébastien, please tell us about your student and your training program at Le Wagon.
Yes, so basically we have people coming from everywhere. We have people coming from engineering school, business schools, we have lawyers, architects, artists, any kind of people. Usually they are 30 years old, they already did something in a company, and they were really not pleased with their job at their company. And so they want something more, and so they have a lot of ideas usually, so they want to be entrepreneurs, they want to start startups, but they don't have the technical skills, so they try to reach developers, to find CTO, to find people to build with them, and they cannot find them because we don't have enough developers in the market. And also, so they turn to freelance developers or web agencies, and it's usually really expensive, and they usually don't have the money. So after some bad experience or just no experience with those kind of outsourcing companies, they decide to learn by themselves, and they can do it. In fact, I mean, we've been there for more than 1 year and it works. So a little bit about our programs. We take people really with zero experience in programming or computer science, and we turn them in 2 months into web developers who are really able to build any MVP of any idea they might have. So it's really a new power for them because it's a new tool. Once they get an idea, they can build it. Of course, if it turns great and they have 1 million users, they will still need engineers and a big developer team. But at least they can start with something. They can start to experiment, to reach the market, and to see if they have users, if they have customers, etc.
How long is the program?
So the program is 9 weeks. Just to cover it very briefly, we start with really basic stuff. So we teach Ruby on Rails. So we start with 3 weeks of Ruby and object-oriented programming, where we learn really basic stuff like variable, for loops, if conditions, if you know what this is. And then we move on to database and SQL, and then a bit about front development, front end, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc. And then so we have all the pieces of a web application, and we bring that together during 2 weeks of Ruby on Rails, where we work as teams, because it's something you know how to develop, but developing as a team is another skill you need. So we train them to work as teams. And in the end, they have 2 weeks on their own project. So they bring a project and they work as team. And usually after 10 days, we have really amazing results. And if you want to see, we record and live stream demo days on YouTube. So if you go on our YouTube channel, you will see what we have after 2 weeks. And I'm proud to say that at Web2day, we have 2 former students. So we have Vincent Simon for USlide, who is here, and we also have Olivier Godemont for Stripe. So people who did Le Wagon and then now are working for a startup, founded a startup, or working for a big successful company in the US. So that's
Wonderful.
it. Okay.
Thank you, Sébastien.
Sure.
So now, at an even more grassroots level than what Le Wagon does, Waag Society in the Netherlands aims at democratizing coding as a tool that ought to be in everyone's hands, including children. Yvonne, please tell us more about that.
Yes, I think I wanted to start with saying that we see coding in a broad spectrum of technology, that it is important to understand the technology that is around us. We see on the one hand that developments in technology are so fast that decisions are being made on a level that we cannot understand it anymore. You know, things are being organized around us, and it's going truly automated. And on the other hand, so we are losing some sort of sense of how things are working. But on the other hand, technology is also so powerful that it is enabling us to do a lot of things. So it's really informing us, it's involving us, and it's empowering us to become a more active part of society, in research and in policy making. And we see different reactions of people to this development. So some people are just in plain denial about what is happening around them. And then we have this group that we call naive techno-optimists. So they are just they know a bit about what is happening, but they see it all in good fun and all being really helpful and useful, and not taking a critical eye to that. And that is why we really feel it's important to democratize the access to technology, but also to stimulate the technology of democratization as well. And so I guess in this light is where we feel that coding skills are becoming more and more essential. But we hardly ever approach it from just really the coding perspective. We always look at maker culture. And I think this is what Sébastien also says, that people come to him to these courses not because they want to learn how to code specifically, but because they have an idea that they want to create. And this is really what we see. Once you tap into the motivation and the creative and the artistical side of people to want to make something, and this happens with kids as well, then they go over the threshold of the initial, scary, I have to learn how to code, and isn't that math, So we run different programs. For instance, we have Fab School Kids. I don't know, who knows what a Fab Lab is? Well, if you don't, you should visit one immediately. It's a digital fabrication lab. They're all over Europe, and there are many in France as well. It's an open space where you can come and use 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC milling machines, all digitally. You can all use them through your computer. There are people there that can help you. They are free. It's free to use. You only have to pay for your own materials that you use. And you can create stuff. It's all about creating there. It's about, we have people, fashion designers, creating innovative bikini lines that are cut to the body based on metrics. And we have people coming, building prosthetics, low-cost prosthetics. People building their own guitars. It can be really anything. It's hobby projects. It's more professional prototyping. It's pretty much anything. And we do this with kids as well. We use Instructables as a really good tool where we upload programs for kids, so anybody can reuse that as well. And they, for instance, make a T-shirt, which all the girls want to do, of course, with LED lights that, when you press them, with sensors that do stuff. And you have, these little, I really don't know the English word for it, but a track where you can let a little ball roll and it goes continuously because of, mechanics and the programming you do behind it. And we use Arduino, of course, and we use all these wonderful tools that are now available to make coding really accessible for kids. But then we do the same for adults as well. So, for instance, we are now running a Smart Citizen Lab, and we do this in collaboration with the city, where we are teaching people. So the trigger is, I want to know more about the environment I live in, but then we are teaching them how sensors work, and what is the difference between a low-cost sensor that you can buy for like €1 and the ones that the city uses, and how do these measurements compare to each other? And so you become informed, you become involved because you are implementing these sensors at home. You are even changing them in our Fab Lab and together with us and the people that are working with us. And then you go into a dialogue with the city about this. So you have learned a lot about programming without knowing that you've learned about programming, actually.
It's so one nice game to play.
Yeah, it is.
So, as Ilhan already pointed out, data is such an important aspect of all of this. In fact, data is the raw material of the programmer as an artist, as a craftsman, as Sébastien, I'm sure, will as Sébastien mentioned in our conversation before this panel. They need data that is relevant, plentiful, and the key is, of course, easily accessible. So, Ilhan, I would love for you to share with us your open data revelation at the Manchester Hackathon last year, as a great illustration of this.
After we won the hackathon in Istanbul, they invited us to Manchester Hackathon as well. So we expect to win there again because we expect to work on the public transportation data, but it didn't happen like that. When we first go there, we saw that there are lots of data. I mean, it's like greeting. It's recycling data, so it just shows the recycling centers in the location in the center, and it was there were street lights data, so it showed the street lamps locations in the city. So it was unusual for us. I mean, we live in Istanbul, so we don't have such information like that. We just don't have public transportation data. I mean, even so. At first, it was really hard to understand the data because you have to live that city to create what people need. So we talk with citizens in there, and then we try to create an application that encourages the people to recycling. So there were two parts of the application, which one part is mobile application that use a gamification. So users just recycle and then take points. And the other parts of the application was backend. The backend shows the city councils where people recycles more. So it was heat map, and then city councils or city services just easily understand where people more recycling and where don't. So it is really helpful for us, for me. I mean, I learned a lot of open data activities in there. People just create a lot of interesting things. Like one team creates the street lighting map. So it just shows the where parts of the city lights more and where less. So it was interesting. And one of the application was Samsung Jira application. So it gives you points when you run on the street. So it's just keep track of the street lights location, and then you get the points of the where you run. So it was interesting. I was thinking a lot about the open data at that time. So I applied for the Code for Europe project.
For the what, sorry?
For Code for Europe project. So it was a great opportunity for me to make an application that use across to Europe. Right. So maybe I can talk.
Yeah, if you can give us a brief overview of your work in Barcelona.
Okay, it was. I applied for the Barcelona city. They have a problem like. There are lots of city problems. I mean, there are lots of graffiti in the city. There are lots of potholes, but they just can't keep track of these issues. I mean, even today, there are lots of different channels to reach them, reach the city councils. Even you can use just Twitter to reach them out. So they just want to create a mobile application or a standardized way to collect the public issues from the citizens. Right. What I create an Open 311 application, which is an iOS and Android and web application, which use Open 311 is a standardized way to collect these kind of issues. So
people can report them directly?
Yeah, it's just too easy to report them. I mean, on the road, when you see a pothole or falling trees, just take a picture of that thing and then send back to the city council. So they will add to their to-do list. I mean, it's like creating a to-do list. Everybody can reach and add new items to it. So it was easy to track those issues. I mean, you can use anything for for that to-do list. You can add photos, or maybe you can just add job opportunities. It was really easy to configure this API because there are lots of reusable patterns on it. So we created, and we try to make life easier for the citizens.
Is the service up and running currently?
It's not running because the API that Barcelona provides is still beta. I mean, there are 2 less cities in Europe still in production. Helsinki is on production, Bonn is production, but Barcelona is not yet.
Great, thank you, Ilhan. So one obvious issue is that open data scares governments. Yvonne, I would love for you to tell us about the challenges that you see with regard to public officials and civil servants understanding IT and the value of open data, and how Waag society helps to build bridges between governments and programmers.
Yes, yes. For us, Code for Europe also has been a really useful tool for that. To explain a bit on Meta what it is, it's really a methodology. It comes from America, called Code for America there. It's a really successful program. It's running for 6 or 7 years now. And what they do is they recruit fellows. And in America, it's like you join the army or you join Code for America. And so it's really civic duty, getting people with coding skills to help governments improve their knowledge about coding.
And it's a purely volunteer position.
No, but it's not. You don't get a consultancy fee either. So it's just a job.
Right.
It's just a regular job.
Okay.
But then you really go beyond in that job. So it's a limited time. You work together for about a year, and we adopted it to Europe. With the main difference that in America it's all centralized. All the fellows work from one central location. Here the fellows all work in the government departments themselves, and they are brought together for training like 2 or 3 times a year. And then that's where they really collaborate. So, and this really goes into this bottom-up approach that the Waag stands for as well, where you are just invading almost government departments to show them the importance of knowledge about technology and agile working methodologies. And I think for many policymakers, any technology is just at the end of the policymaking process. It's just you are working on policy for like 2 years maybe, and then something has to be built. And then you procure that, and that takes, again, years and years, and then at the end of that you have a huge application that nobody really uses, or that doesn't do what you want. So we want to show them that technology is actually an integral part of the policymaking process, that it really goes hand in hand. You cannot do one without the other anymore. So you have to work in small iterations. You really have to reach out to the citizens and to your users, to all your stakeholders in an early stage. You work in sprints, anything that anybody working in ICT already knows. And we find policymakers in cities that are open to this idea. I mean, that's where it really starts. You cannot say top down, you have to do this. Then the program will fall flat. So we were searching for
allies.
Yes, for allies. And once you find this ally that is open to the idea, then you go maybe a level higher, and then you, for instance, in the Netherlands, we are running our own local Code for program. It's called Code for NL. So you have Code for Barcelona, you have Code for Poland, you have Code for Germany, etc. Code for Ireland. So there are many chapters currently active in Europe. No Code for France yet, so feel free to start it. Then you go, in the Netherlands, I invite like the higher up people for an advisory board, so they get some prestige from that, and then the ball gets rolling, and you go just past the fear of technology and fear of data, and you go into, we're going to create a civic, something for the people, something that is useful for them. And then all these other things like the open data and the open source, which are key values in this methodology, they are just brought in there and just massaged throughout this year. And in the Netherlands, it really started from really bottom up, like grassroots, what you said. So we did hackathons with engaged civil servants, getting the first data sets to open up. But then you see other models in other countries that are really working as well. Like in Finland, in Helsinki, you have this organization called Forum Virium, which is attached to, it's like an innovation hub attached to the city. So it's from the city. It's actually an official part of the city, but they have all the freedom to experiment. So they have the freedom to fail, really. And they can take on that responsibility. So any government department can come to them and start a project, and then if it's successful, then it's from the department, and if it fails, then, well, it's from Forum Virium. Yeah? So it's a really safe route for government to experiment with technology and open data. If I can, one more example, I think the UK example is also really successful, where you have the government digital service, and they were in a unique position a few years ago to set up, it's almost like a separate ministry, and they have all the authority about everything having to do with technology and the central government there. And they are just guys in sneakers and t-shirts, and there's almost no hierarchy there. It's really a bunch, I think there are now 200 people there, but they are all working in this agile, service design-oriented method, and they are bringing that to the rest of government, and they have mandates. Any government project over 25,000 euros has to be approved by the government digital service, and then you get somewhere. For instance, in the Netherlands, I was hoping that sort of would happen. We had this big scandal where, you know, some IT system from government cost way too much, and then they organized the Bureau of Information Technology something. And I thought, well, that might have some potential, but they are going to check government projects over 5 million euros. I mean, if this is your approach to IT, then you are way off base, right? I think.
But so do you think that more and more success stories eventually will lead governments to this tipping point, where finally it will become more pervasive?
Yes. I think the most successful is when you find this combination of the person on the ground, you know, on the ally, the one that wants to change something, that has a project they envision, that might want to, you know, learn how to code in 9 weeks, or this person that wants to be a driver of change within the organization itself and just doesn't have the tools, right. And then help them, you know, convince their boss, or on a higher level, their alderman or whoever, that something is important. And when you get that duo, I think that then anything is possible, and you really can get any subject moving forward within government.
Thank you, Yvonne. So it becomes clear through this conversation that programming is power. There's a lot of power to create things through coding. And yet it seems that programmers need a lot more love. Coding is a craft, it's an art, as Sébastien mentioned before, and like all craft, experience is essential to, you know, for people to become good at it. And yet experienced coders are hard to come by. You said it earlier, there are not enough developers in the market. So what is it, Sébastien? Do you find that programmers are getting too little recognition and are too eager to move on to becoming people's manager as opposed to really staying with that craft?
Well, I will speak for France because that's what I know best. Back in engineering school, a lot of students did not really want to find a job as developer, a job where they could code all day and build stuff. But they knew that somehow they needed to do this kind of job for 2 or 3 years only. And it was a mandatory path to become a manager. And the goal of a lot of students in college was to become a manager. And I think it's really a shame because you lose a lot of value. In fact, having a senior developer inside a team brings really a lot. It prevents junior developers from making the same mistake over and over. And I think in France, the job of a programmer, of developer, is not as recognized as it could be, I think, in the US. So yeah, becoming a manager is not something every guy in IT schools should dream of. I think. I mean, that's for me.
Do you have any comment, Ivonne or Ilhan? Is that the way you see it in your respective countries?
I think in the Netherlands we don't have that. In the sense that there's a lot of attention on television and like actually a mainstream television program. They have guests every day, and a lot of they have like this recurring panelists of coders that are talking about startups and about how exciting that is, and they show little clips from interesting stuff from Silicon Valley. So it's really being pushed as an interesting like this is the future. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to actually be a coder. So I think that might be a strategy for France as well. Like find somebody wanting to pay attention to this.
In Istanbul, we don't have any startup bootcamp like teaching the programming. But also after university, you don't have that experience. I mean, it's not about studying computer engineering. It's about the experience. So it's really hard to code what you really want to imagine when you just teach in the computer science. So you have to get that experience. So the Wagon program is really great for that, I think.
So another aspect of this is the role of women in this world, in the world of programmers. Very few women, still too few women. It's been talked about for a very long time, seemingly since I first arrived in Silicon Valley. I've been hearing this conversation. Sébastien, what have you observed among your students? How many female students do you have versus men, and how do they fare in the group?
So when we started last year, we had only 10% of women in the program, which is very low. And the current batch running in Paris right now has 40% of 40%, yeah, of women. So we're quite happy with this number. So far, when I look back with 1 year of experience as a teacher, I did not see any difference between women and men when it comes to how hard it is to learn to code, because you need to invest time in it, but there's no difference. What I saw is that women really love back-end development and Ruby stuff, and they're not really so into web front-end development or design, which is a bit against the cliché. And one minor difference is that they tend to be less confident about what they know, even though they are really good, they are not so sure. So this is one difference we have. One thing I noticed as well is that women tend to be better when it comes to teamwork. So when we run small projects with 2 or 3 people, the group with women will be more organized, will go further, etc. You don't have the lonesome cowboy, who goes straight into code and builds the stuff and doesn't care for anything. So we have that, which is nice. And also, I think, so our students are entrepreneurs who want to know how to build the stuff by themselves. So they come with ideas, and ideas we have from men and ideas we have from women are really different. And again, so for instance, there are 2 startups we are coaching after the program. So we have, on the one hand, we have Roadster, which is a marketplace where you can rent a vintage car. And obviously it's 2 men who founded that. And on the other hand, we have Ma Chère École, which can translate to my share, school share, to share. And it's for parents to connect, parents who have kids in the same school. They can connect before the class starts, and when the class is running, they can know what the children are doing. And this was founded by a woman, and actually 2 of our former students joined her and are working for her as a freelance developers. So now they have a team of 3. So there is 1 mother, 1 dad, and 1 other guy who doesn't have children. And it's interesting that we can see those kind of projects emerge from the program.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure.
Yvonne, is there anything you want to contribute?
Well, yes, I think anytime you like when we organize hackathons, then it's all male. Yeah. But anytime we switch to a more artistic point of view, like we have a crypto design challenge where we invite people to make cryptology sexy somehow. And we have, yeah, it's a challenge. And any Fab Lab program we run, or buy a hack academy or something. And when you lose the word code, it definitely attracts more women when you approach it from a design perspective and focus on the making. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Ilhan.
I think we need more female founders. I mean, both in US, both in also in Europe, because I have lots of friends in Turkey. They can they can code great backend, but they just don't have confidence. I mean, they just study between the males. So we just did a lot of homework with them, and it's really hard to being part of the engineering. But after university, I saw that there are lots of female who wants to be founder. So we have to support them to make more confident.
Great. On this good note, I'm noticing that quite a few women in this room, which I find very heartening. I think this is our time for a little Q&A session, actually. If any one of you guys have a question for our panelists, that would be great. Anyone? Nothing you've heard this morning spurred any question, any reflection? Or maybe you can ask your question in French too. Yes. Do you want to come forward? Or?
Hello.
Hi.
Do you think we can make design without coding?
What do you mean? What's your meaning of the word design? Like
For me, design is actually making UX design,
Okay.
all the interfaces. But
Okay.
do you think we can actually design, for example, an interface without knowing anything about coding?
I think it's really harder if you don't know concepts about programming, because usually when you know how the stuff work behind the scenes, your decision about design is really informed about how it will work. So even though you are not, you cannot implement 100% of your design, it's better if you have an idea how it works. I think it's easier. If you really don't have any idea, I think you will make some mistakes. You make some mistakes. So I'm not saying that every designer should know how to code backend stuff, but my opinion about the job of a web designer is that a web designer should know how to generate HTML, CSS from the design he's making in Illustrator or Photoshop. Because if he's just giving the Photoshop files or Illustrator files, and then you have a backend engineer who needs to generate all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript from that, usually we lose a lot of information and a lot of the craft from the design. So it's better when you have a web designer in the team who can also work with technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript to bring into life the design. This is my opinion. I don't know if you want to answer.
Well, do you know the service design blueprint? You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's a method for designing services, actually. And if you think of design in that sense, then I agree with you that it's very difficult to really design any front end without understanding a bit about back end. But if you look at it from, I want to design a service. The example that is always used is like the hotel. When I visit a hotel, I check in at the desk, my luggage being taken to the room, and when I get to my room, everything is in order there. But that doesn't happen on itself. So there's the service design blueprint is a methodology where you work in different lines, and you have the customer line, the customer journey, they call it, where you design really what you want the customer to experience. And then you go think, okay, this customer needs feedback at some point, and there's a process that he sees, but there's also a back-end process that he doesn't see, and there might be an underlying system as well. And you design an entire process without actually going into front-end or back-end programming at any point, but you create an overview of a customer journey for your application, for instance, that then can be easily translated to an application, to programming. And that you can always, you can design, I think, a customer journey without designing, without programming anything. Yes. Yeah.
If you are talking about developing a mobile application, designing without programming is really it's really hard. I mean, you will get a lot of boilerplate code, so it will cause performance issues. It will cause a lot of not need elements on your design. So it's better to stick on the prototypes when you design the application. So your design you can just use a prototype web page or applications, and then it shows the storyboards to your customers. After that, you have to code for the designing.
Thank you.
Anyone else has a question? Yes.
I'm a web developer. I have 2 kids, and I want them to be more curious about web development, for example. Where can I start?
You should start, well, first go to our website, Waag.org, and just check on anything. It's all in English as well, and you just check on anything with kids, and you'll get some sense of interesting programs. But definitely Arduino is, I think, a key element for kids to start coding. And instructables, like I mentioned, there are many instructables that then build on, that give examples for kids to create. It was the marble I was looking for, to create a marble thing, or like I said, T-shirts with LED lights, or just any fun thing for a kid that then involves some type of coding or some type of soldering or anything. And also a really good starting point is checking out the MIT web pages on this subject. I personally really like the, but I can't remember the name of it, but it's like this little board. Does anybody know the banana piano? It's Makey, thank you so much. Yes, Makey is, I think, really, it's like a little, print board, yeah. How would you call it? Print board, where you connect a little cable and you can clip the cable on the banana, and then you put the print board in your USB port. Like anybody can do this, and you can make a banana piano. Or I once went to elementary school to give a demonstration. I sometimes give talks about what I do there, and then somebody holds the clip end, and you get a piano out of kids. So they just really love that. The Makey is really good.
Not really.
Okay. Great. Anything else? Any other question? We still haven't. Yeah, we have at least 5 minutes. So please. Keep them coming.
Who codes here? Sorry. Can I ask who codes? Who would call themselves a coder? That's a lot. And who would want to code but doesn't right now? Yeah? Can you tell me why you haven't learned coding yet? So why do you want to code?
Yeah, I have a startup idea, and all the time I said I didn't study computer science at the university. And then all the other times I thought, okay, maybe it's better to find another co-founder who is a developer. So I'll be doing the all the other stuff, and so that I will not be dealing with everything by myself. And I said it's maybe a too much investment, like too much time investment for me, that rather than just finding a full stack developer and leaving him or her to do it. So basically that was my idea since I graduated. But apparently after I failed to find developers and dealing with them. So in the end, maybe for the people who will just graduate and have a startup idea, I can suggest them to learn from the beginning and not risking that, risking the time, so that they can do everything they want and imagine.
So there's a room full of coders here. You can approach him afterwards.
Maybe I can elaborate on that. So your situation is really something we see all the time. So people, they think, okay, I'll do the business, the marketing, business development, etc. And I find my soulmate, because when you're looking for a co-founder, it's like finding a wife or a husband, because you really spend 10 years with them every day, every night. So it's really hard to find, exactly. So usually you spend like 1 year looking for the perfect guy. Sometimes you're lucky and you find, and sometimes you're not. So you turn to freelance, the web agency, etc. But you don't own the stuff. And every time you want to do a small modification, even something like I want to change the color of my links on the web page. You know, that's really, you have to send an email, okay, I want this color. So you have back and forth emails, they change the stuff, you come back, oh no, it's not really the color I wanted, etc. But you can just open the web developer tool in your browser and change if you know CSS, you know. And it's really, really basic. You can go online and start learning. So you're right, you should invest the time to learn to code, because in the end, you spend less time learning than looking for someone to do the stuff. And once you know how to code, it's really a new tool. You have a new power. Last year, we had 2 lawyers. So I don't know if you know how a lawyer work, but they just know Word, you know, Microsoft Word, and they do copy-paste everywhere. They replace stuff. It's horrible. And so one of the students used to work in a law firm, and our job was to read like 100-page documents about companies, to extract some information like the name of the company, how much money they have, how much people they have, etc. And it's really long, because you have to read through 100 page. And so she came to Le Wagon, and she learned how to code, and our project was a command line tool. So, you know, really back-end stuff, not design. Command line tool, which takes in argument a Word document, and in 5 seconds extract all the information she had to extract. And before that, she had to read it. It took like 4 hours, and now it's 5 seconds. And so it's a new kind of lawyer. And when you take people from a vertical who don't know anything about IT, like for instance a law firm, and you give them new tools like programming, it just creates some stuff you could have. Well, it's just extraordinary. So yeah, I mean, every activity will benefit from developer bringing the knowledge, because as developers we tend to stick in the startup world, in technologies, mobile phone, etc. We don't go to lawyers to tell them, hey, we can help you. And I don't know, maybe lawyers are scary, but anyway, yeah, when you bring IT and programming to them, it's really wonderful. So same thing for politics, I think, and policymakers.
Yes, I wanted to add that I saw a really cool example of a doctor who created an application for a really basic problem that he saw, which was that he worked in a really big hospital, and elderly people had a really hard time, you know, if they're walking difficult or something, to get to the place that they need to go. So he created a little system where he connected interns to greet people when they arrived at the door and get them to their location. And it was just a really simple system. But I agree, the real power is when people from the care business or education or something, when they learn how to code and then implement that into their own daily business.
I clearly understand what his problem, because I mean, I have still friends from high school. They just want to develop their ideas, but they don't have to code. So they just still contact me, and we are trying to understand what's they're imagining. But instead of how they imagine, I can tell them, learn how to code, then you can build what you want to do. So it's much simpler than I can do, because I don't understand why he just want to imagine in their mind. So it's need a lot of involvement to that project. So yeah.
Do you want to talk again about where you're going to open the Wagon next?
Where?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, as I said, so Le Wagon is in Paris, but it was in Brussels in January. It's running in Brussels and will be in Lille and Bordeaux and Los Angeles as well. So yeah. Sure.
Great. So as Ilhan said, everybody should learn how to code. That it really is a secret. Thank you. I think we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation. And we look forward to pursuing the conversation out there, just outside. Thank you so much.